What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one wants to break down what's going on with NIO, Tesla, SPY, Nvda, and the QQQ. I'm going to talk about why tomorrow is going to be a very important day for the markets because we have the first day the bonds market is going to be open after the new Israeli news that came out. So it's going to be very important. The bonds market was closed today, but the stock market was open despite the fact that it was Columbus Day. Different people have different views, which is completely fine. But because the bonds market was closed, we're going to see a big reaction tomorrow, and we're going to see what happens then. So I'm going to talk about all of that. I'm going to break down some news involving the markets and also what's happening to NIO and what you should be watching for going into tomorrow. But before I break anything down about all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. This offer ends in just about 6 days from now. Check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market. So when it comes to NIO, this thing was down about 4.36% for the day, looking relatively weak. But the question is, can NIO try to bounce from here? Is there potential for the bounce? As of right now, I'm not really seeing a true sign of it trying to bounce, and there could be more downside coming off this like head and shoulders like pattern. So there's a risk of more downside. It doesn't look like it's done just yet, but it also depends on what happens tomorrow, and that's why tomorrow is going to be a very important day. So before I talk about the bonds market, let me just talk about some news affecting the markets. Tomorrow, the market's going to open at its normal time, and then we have Bostic giving a speech while it opens. I don't think Bostic or many of these Fed speakers will cause that much volatility. What could cause some volatility is going to be between 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock a.m. New York time or Eastern time because we have wholesale inventories coming out, not to mention the wholesale inventories and the consumer inflationary expectations data all coming out. So we will see if this causes any volatility or not. It's going to be very important to watch for. And then we're going to be watching to see what this causes. We also have some Fed speakers later on as the day goes on. So at about, I would say like at 1:30 p.m., we have Waller giving a speech. Then at about, this is going to be at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, we have Kashkari giving a speech. We will see what they cause, but for the most part, the most important data is going to be at between 10 and 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, so a little bit after open. Now, this news came out that Israel has launched a strike on Gaza after the surprise attacks that happened on them. And when this news came out, I mean, this was just horrendous. It was very, very sad to see anyone losing their lives and passing away, especially innocent people. And it's very painful, right? My heart goes out to anyone that's affected. It's very hard to see anything like this going on. But when all of this happened, okay, you have to remember that war tends to be bullish for the stock market for the medium to long term. It tends to be that way because yields tend to drop, the bonds market tends to see a cool off, and the dollar tends to drop too. And we tend to see oil or crude oil start to go up as well. So we're going to be watching that very carefully. And when this has happened, we're likely going to see an increase in government spending, and that could once again trigger big changes. So we're going to be watching all this data very carefully and see how this affects us. When it comes to NIO, on the other hand, NIO completed 30 million global battery swaps, showing that they have lots and lots of viability. Their process, their technology, and their systems are working out very, very well. And I'm very excited and very happy to see how this may continue as time goes on. Now, as far as NIO goes, I just wanted to mention that Deutsche Bank gave NIO a buy rating and still maintained it. The price-price ratio is very flat right now, so it hasn't changed that much. When it comes to seasonality on a day-to-day basis, NIO has a tendency of being green about 55% of the time on Tuesdays. And then when it comes to hourly seasonality, we tend to see green during the second and during like the 6th and 7th hours of the trading day. And besides that, there's not a whole lot else that's going on in its data. The volume for NIO was actually kind of like a little bit below average, around just under 40 million. So it's not like that high. It's not too low either, kind of in the middle. So now let's break down how NIO is looking. Right now, guys, at the time I am recording this, there's still a sell-off going on. There's no sign that it's done just yet. And we could see this drop a little bit lower. So I'm a little bit apprehensive about this. The daily is also looking a little flat. So when it comes to NIO, we have a lot of support at this $8 area. I could see this thing coming down to like 7.93 to 8 and trying to bounce. But I think that either around $8 is where this thing's going to attempt to see some buyers stepping in, or maybe a little bit lower before this thing makes an attempt to bounce. So for tomorrow, I want to just call out the fact that we have some very, very important stuff going on. the bonds market is going to be opening up. And that's going to be the first time it opened up since the Israeli news that came out, right? Because the bonds market was closed today. It wasn't really trading, it was just equities. So with the bonds market opening up, this could lead to more volatility. And if we start to see yields get a big reaction, that's going to lead to even more. So I don't know exactly how it's going to open. Will we see the yields continue to push up very hard, or are they going to come down? We will have to find out. But I just want to mention that if the yields start dropping, which is something that tends to happen during wars, we also have a bearish divergence on the 10-year treasury yield. This might start dropping. This could help the market pump a bit. We have a gap down here at the 10-year. My gut tells me we might see this cool off a bit, and the bonds market may pump the market a little bit more. And that's what I'm leaning in direction towards. But just to be safe, you want to watch for confirmation. So on SPY, if we break 433, we're going to be bullish. We're going to be watching for 436.5 to 438. If we break below 430, watch 428 as important support. We will see how that affects the market, so watch that very carefully. For Tesla, it's holding up quite nicely so far. It actually got a nice bounce. If Tesla breaks and holds this 260 area, we could be watching 262.5 to potentially 265. If it breaks, this is going to be a bullish sign if it breaks above 263. If Tesla ends up breaking down, if it breaks below 258 and we end up sinking towards 256, watch that very carefully. If 256 fails, let's watch 254 flat. If that fails, we could see more downside to the very low 250, so watch that support carefully, 254 specifically. For now, Tesla's holding up quite decently, so there's a chance it could get a little pop and try to make its way back up to 265, but that depends on the bonds market tomorrow. Apple looks bullish. It looks like it wants to get to 180, but just to be, more and more safe, you want to see if it can break this high that it made today. If it does so, it could make some more upside, but that's going to depend on the bonds market for tomorrow. Same thing with the QQQ. If we break 367, we could be watching this thing push up towards this imbalance. So this imbalance is up here. Let me show you right here. This could be pushing for 370 very soon. If we keep going, it's going to depend on what happens with the yields. Same thing with Nvda. Looking a bit more bullish, is making higher highs and higher lows. The full measured move could take this thing all the way back up to this like 460 plus area. For now, let's see if Nvidia could get to at least 457. If it does so, that could be bullish. Anyways, with all of that said, the dollar ended up pumping, then coming down today. So if it keeps dropping, if this entire war starts dropping the dollar as we see more money being printed, this could, in my opinion, lead to the market pumping a bit. So watch the dollar carefully as time goes on, not to mention the 10-year treasury yield. And this could help NIO pump eventually. I think there's a chance it's going to pump, but before NIO pumps, it could retest $8 to 7.9 first before it gets any bounce. So there could be a little bit more downside. We have a potential bear flag forming. One last touch of $8. I'm thinking it's going to try to bounce and try to make its way back up to 8.5. So I think either it drops a little bit more than bounces, or it could just drop a little bit more to like 8.88 flat, maybe like 7.93, then try to bounce off that. So we're going to be watching that very carefully. We'll see which way it goes tomorrow, and we will see what happens with the bonds market affecting the markets. Anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow, guys. Hopefully this video was helpful. Please remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and peace out.